Commentary on Daniel by Hippolytus. Book 4, concerning the visions of the prophet Daniel. Part 1. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of the Chaldeans, Daniel saw a dream, and the visions of his head were while he was upon his bed, and he wrote down the vision. And so, as much as was revealed by the Spirit through visions to the blessed prophet, these things also he ungrudgingly described to others, so that he might not only, while prophesying the things which are to come, reveal them to himself, but also that it may be demonstrated to those who wish with faith to search the godly writings of the prophet. In all events, he says, I, Daniel, was looking, and behold, 4 winds of heaven were blowing upon the great sea, and 4 great beasts arose from the sea, differing from one another. The first was a lioness, and feathers were upon it as an eagle. I was looking until its feathers were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and it stood upon human feet, and a heart of a man was given to it. And behold, a second beast was like a bear, and it stood on one side, and 3 ribs were in its mouth between its teeth, and they were speaking in this way to it, Rise, eat much flesh. After this I was looking, and behold, there was another beast, like a leopard, and 4 wings of a bird were upon it, and 4 heads were on the beast, and authority was given to it. After this I was looking, and behold, a 4th beast, fearful and terrible, and exceedingly strong. Its teeth were iron, and its nails bronze, and it was eating and grinding, and the remainder it trampled with its feet. And it itself was exceedingly different from all the beasts which were before it, and there were 10 horns on it. I was observing its horns, and behold, another smaller horn rose up in the midst of them, and 3 horns which were before it were rooted out from its face. And behold, eyes as eyes of the man were on this horn, and a mouth speaking great things. I was looking until thrones were set, and the Ancient of Days sat, and his clothes were white as snow, and the hair of his head was as pure wool. His throne was a flame of fire, its wheels blazing fire. A river of fire gushed from before it. 1,000 thousands attended him, and myriad myriads stood before him. He set out judgment, and the books were opened. Then I was looking at the voice of great words which that horn spoke, until the beast was killed, and its body was destroyed and given to the burning of fire. And the dominion of the rest of the beasts ceased, and a length of life was given to them for a time. And so when the different beast was shown to the blessed prophet Daniel, and it was shown that it differed from the others, it is necessary for us to consider that he does not discuss any of the beasts as mere animals, but in a model and image he portrays the kingdoms which have arisen in this world, just as he portrays the beasts destroying humanity. For the great sea indicates the whole world, he says, the 4 winds of heaven, which signal the 4-fold creation. And so when he says, I saw 4 beasts rising from the sea, he speaks concerning the kingdoms of this world. The first was a lioness, and feathers were upon it as an eagle. And so he, while speaking, names a lioness as the kingdom of the Babylonians, which Nebuchadnezzar then ruled. Then he says, feathers were upon it as an eagle, because the king was lifted up and raised up against God, being puffed up in heart on account of the greatness and glory which came to him. Then he says, its feathers were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and it stood upon human feet, and a heart of a man was given to it. For this really happened to Nebuchadnezzar, just as has been indicated in the book before this book, and he himself testifies in this way about that which happened to him, as he was banished from his kingdom, and his glory was taken away, and so was the majesty which he procured at first. And so just as he says to strip the feathers of the whole bird, he is powerless and is easily caught. And in this way at that time the powers of the king were removed, through which he imagined to boast and to be high-minded, but then was afraid and fled into the desert, so that he may not be killed by them. When Scripture says, it stood upon human feet, and a heart of a man was given to it, It is clear that Nebuchadnezzar, having humbled himself and recognized that he is a man lying under the authority of God, he, after begging the Lord, obtained from him a good heart, and again his kingdom and glory were re-established. Just as he himself testifies, saying, "And after the end of the days, I, Nebuchadnezzar, lifted up my eyes to heaven, and my wits returned to me, and I blessed the Most High, and praised and glorified him that lives forever, because his authority is an eternal authority, and his kingdom is from generation to generation, and all who dwell upon the earth are reckoned as nothing, and they are as nothing." While these things were then happening in this way to Nebuchadnezzar in those times, just as the blessed Daniel disclosed to us in the vision, the king himself likewise confessed it, and after he died, the office came to Belshazzar. When he himself, on account of the deed which he did at night, was taken away, as has been indicated in the book before this book, then Darius the Mede received the kingdom, being 62 years old. So suitably the prophet describes another beast rising, which was the bear, so that in this he may display the kingdom of the Persians. He says, 3 ribs were in its mouth. He calls 3 ribs the 3 regions of nations, which the same beast ruled, which were Medes, Assyrians, and Babylonians, and that they were speaking in this way to it, "Rise, eat much flesh." For then, in those times, the Persians rose up and laid waste to all the land, and made many of the men their slaves, and they utterly destroyed everything. For just as the beast, the bear is a sordid and flesh-eating creature, tearing with both its claws and teeth. In this way also the kingdom of the Persians became, which presided for 230 years. Some of the historians recorded that these ruled 245 years until Darius the Chief, whom Alexander of Macedon deposed in the 7th year and transferred the kingdom of the Persians to the Greeks. Just as also Daniel says, "After this I was looking, and behold, another beast like a leopard, and 4 wings of a bird were upon it, and 4 heads were on the beast, and authority was given to it." And so, having named a leopard, he signals the kingdom of the Greeks, which Alexander of Macedon began, and he compares them to a leopard on account of them being sharp in mind and resourceful in reasoning and relentless in heart, in which manner also the spotted creature is the model of the kingdom of the Greeks, quick to do evil and quick to drink the blood of men. He says, 4 wings of a bird were upon it, and 4 heads were on the beast. For after the kingdom of Alexander was lifted up and grew in strength and was named in all the world, his kingdom was divided to his 4 chiefs. For while dying, Alexander distributed it to his companions who were of his race, 4 men, Seleucus, Demetrius, Ptolemy, and Philip, and these all put on crowns, just as Daniel predicts, and was recorded in the first book of the Maccabees. And so, after the Greeks ruled for 300 years, the prophet signals to me again another kingdom. For he spoke in this way, "After this I was looking, and behold, a 4th beast, fearful and terrible and exceedingly strong. Its teeth were iron and its nails bronze, and it was eating and grinding, and the remainder it trampled with its feet. And it itself was exceedingly different from all the beasts which were before it, and there were 10 horns on it. I was observing its horns, and behold, another smaller horn rose up in the midst of them, and 3 horns which were before it were rooted out from its face. And behold, eyes as eyes of the man were on this horn, and a mouth speaking great things. I was looking until thrones were set, and the Ancient of Days sat, and his clothes were white as snow, and the hair of his head were as pure wool. His throne was a flame of fire, its wheels blazing fire. A river of fire gushed from before it. Thousands attended him, and myriads stood before him. He set out judgment, and the books were opened. Then I was looking at a voice of great words, which that horn spoke, until the beast was killed, and his body was destroyed, and given to the burning of fire. and the dominion of the rest of the beasts ceased, and a length of life was given to them for a time. And so, after the kingdom of the Greeks, a kingdom arose, none other than that which now rules, which has also been established, and this is clear to all, which has iron teeth on account of the fact that it overpowers all and grinds with its own strength. Just like iron, it tramples the remainder with its feet. On account of which another kingdom is no longer left after this one, except its 10 horns which grow up from it, and in the midst of them one small horn arises, and it roots out 3 of the first horns. For just as the prophet foretold the leopard, that 4 heads were on the beast, it happened that also the kingdom of Alexander was divided to the 4 chiefs. In this way, it is necessary to also expect now that 10 horns shall arise from this kingdom, whenever the time of the beast should be fulfilled, and the small horn, which is the Antichrist, suddenly should show forth among them, and righteousness should be taken from the earth, and all the world will then be near the consummation. So that it is necessary for us to not misconceive the plan of God, but to be long-suffering, and to beg that we may not fall upon such times, nor indeed lack faith, as though these things are not destined to be. For if the first things, as much as the prophets foretold, did not happen, neither should you expect these. But if those things happened according to their own times, just as was foretold, these things also shall be always accomplished. For when some say, "And when will these things be?" this is a mark of unfaithful men who do not believe. But to foreknow what will be and to believe that it will be in this way is a mark of a blessed man who sees and is silent, so that he may not, when he is speaking many things, endanger himself. But let us also demonstrate in another way that these things are true and clear and happen to the slaves of God. For Scripture does not lie in any way, nor does the Holy Spirit deceive his slaves, the prophets, through whom he is well pleased to announce the plan of God to men, so that seeing these things happen, we might not fall, nor be troubled as beholding these strange things. For otherwise, the consummation is not able to come upon this world except in this way. For just as upon Sodom, when their transgressions were fulfilled, immediately fire descended upon them, and they were destroyed. In this way it will be even now, when lawlessness multiplies in the world, and the present iron beast is divided into 10 horns, and anarchy occurs and discord, while others from here and there rend the kingdom, then the end shall come upon them. And so since we, having also reached this point in another book, and explained an account concerning these things, both the advent of the Antichrist and his race, and from where and how the deceiver shall appear, and we were not silent about his works, nevertheless also now I will mention this only a little, so that a man may steadfastly stand against all things, not ever stammering in mind, and be able to believe in God from a whole heart. For the blessed Daniel, explaining the previous vision to Nebuchadnezzar, says, "I now speak concerning the dream of the image, which shows forth to be a golden head, then hands and arms and a silver chest, next a bronze stomach and thighs, then iron legs, next feet, in them part are iron and part are clay, so that in this it may be shown what he described is now described again in this vision. As the gold is the kingdom of the Babylonians, which was the lioness, the silver that of the Persians, which was the bear, next the bronze that of the Greeks, which Alexander of Macedon began, so that it may be shown as the leopard. After these things he says, iron legs, so that he may signal the fearful and terrible beast, which has iron teeth, which are the Romans who rule now, who are strong as iron. In all events, after the iron legs of the image, what remains, except the feet in which are 10 toes, and these being mixed with clay and iron, so that through the 10 toes the 10 horns may be signaled, and through the clay and iron their discord may be signaled, when they shall be commingled in the seed of men. But they shall not be united with one another. For just as iron is not mixed with clay, in this way at that time men will not be able to agree with one another, but others from here and there shall carry disorder, and divide the royal kingdom to themselves according to their nation. But since the grace of God richly teaches those who hope on him and who despise this world, we shall not pass over this. In a word, the blessed prophet named all kingdoms which were before, having likened them to beasts, but he did not declare the kingdom which now is instituted, as in what sort of animal it was. I will speak more clearly concerning it, so that one may better consider what has been stated. For after he was saying that the kingdom of the Babylonians was a lion, and that of the Persians a bear, and that of the Greeks a leopard, why does he not say that the kingdom of the Romans was an animal? But he says it was fearful and exceedingly terrible. Its teeth were iron and its claws bronze. Consider, O man, and glorify the Lord. For when the Babylonians ruled as one nation, they themselves then in those times resolved to rule all nations, he righteously names them as a lioness, as a creature of one form. Similarly, also the Persians are one sordid nation, which only spoke with the one tongue. On account of this, he likened them also to a bear. Likewise also the Greeks, he said, were a leopard, for all the Greeks were ruling all the world. But now the powerful beast is not one nation, but it is of many tongues, and it gathers to itself from many races of men, and prepares an army in a line of battle, and all are called Romans, though all are not from one country. So that the prophet was rightly amazed, and foreseeing what was to come, he did not name from what country the beast was from, but he was amazed, saying, My spirit shuddered in my being, I Daniel, and the visions of my head confused me. And one of those who stood came forth and sought precisely from him concerning all these things. And he said to me the certainty, and made known to me the interpretation of the words. And so, who are those who stand but the angels who stand before the face of the glory of the Lord, and furnish a constant ministry to him, always attending to what has been commanded by him? But since a certain thought gnaws at the heart, we shall not abandon the indescribable itself, which is able to aid a soul. For when in the 42nd year of Caesar Augustus the Lord was born, when the kingdom of the Romans flourished, the Lord, through the apostles, summoned all nations and all tongues, and made a nation of Christians who believe in the Lord, and who carry a new name in heart. In the same manner this kingdom now is counterfeited by that which rules according to the operation of Satan. But similarly, this kingdom also collects those born from all nations, and prepares those who are called Romans for war. And on account of this also, the first census happened under Augustus, when the Lord was born in Bethlehem, so that the men of this world, being registered in the earthly kingdom, were called Romans. But those who believe in the heavenly kingdom were named Christians, who on their forehead carry the trophy against death to the front line, so that we may not turn aside from what is set before, so that what was seen by the prophet may be shown as true, and so that what was perceived by us in the grace of the Lord and what was spoken may be sure. Let us see if the angel confirms our words, who teaches the blessed Daniel, for he speaks in this way, These 4 beasts are 4 kingdoms, which shall arise upon the earth, and which shall be removed, and the saints of the Most High shall inherit the kingdom and possess it forever and ever. And so it is necessary for the 3 beasts to have already passed away and to have ceased, just as was shown above. And while one beast is yet beginning to culminate, if this also is removed, the remaining earthly things cease. But the heavenly things begin, so that the perpetual and eternal kingdom of the saints may be shown, and the heavenly kingdom may be clearly displayed to all, neither through a form as seen on the mountain of Sinai, nor in a pillar of cloud as revealed on the mountain peak, but with powers and armies of angels, incarnate God and man, Son of God and of man, the Judge who is coming from the heavens into the world, who shall remove all kingdoms which are in this world, and shall thresh and shall winnow, and shall scatter them as chaff from the summer threshing floor, and shall give the kingdom to the saints of the Most High, as he collects grain for his barn. But the chaff heap he burns with unquenchable fire, though now he is despised by the godless and impious, and blasphemed by the unbelievers, who do not consider what is written, nor consider the authority of judgment laid upon them. For though he now also delays for a time, not wishing to bear judgment to the world, and so fulfills the prescription of his Father, but when he comes, he will come with his armies, and render to each according to his works. And so, as many of you all who reverently draw near to God, observe the person who long ago was shown to the people by Moses, and was manifested on the mountain, and was proclaimed by the prophets, and was seen as a man by the blessed Daniel, concerning whom he says, I was looking into the vision of the night, and behold, one was coming like a son of man with the clouds of heaven, and he reached the Ancient of Days, and was brought near to him, and to him was given power and honor, and the kingdom, and all peoples, tribes, and tongues served him. His authority is an eternal authority, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom shall not be destroyed. And so he does not speak of another Ancient of Days, but indeed the Lord and God and Master of all, the Father of even Christ himself, who is the Ancient of Days, he who does not grow old under time or days, concerning whom was spoken above. Thrones were set, and the Ancient of Days sat, and his clothes were white as snow, and the hair of his head was as pure wool. His throne was a flame of fire, its wheels blazing fire. A river of fire gushed from before it. 1,000 thousands attended him, and myriads stood before him. The Son of Man was brought to him, being borne by a cloud and being carried by archangels, so that he may receive from him every rule and authority and power and kingdom, so that all peoples, tribes, and tongues may serve him. And so that one may not understand that his kingdom, which was given to him by the Father, was temporary or earthly. The prophet says, his authority is an eternal authority, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom shall not be destroyed. And so the Father, having subjected all things to his own Son, the things in the heavens and the things of the earth and the things under the earth, through all of them, he exhibited him as being firstborn in all things, firstborn from God, so that the Son of God, being second after the Father, may be displayed, firstborn before angels, so that also he may be shown as Lord of angels, firstborn from a virgin, so that he may be shown as reforming first-formed Adam in himself, firstborn also from the dead, so that he himself may be the first fruits of our resurrection. And so, since all the prophets and apostles testify to this, but because the lawless disobey him and blaspheme, and set at nothing what has been spoken, and persecute and oppress his slaves, and because they do not expect these things which will be, let us ourselves see what will be, we who believe in the word of truth, and who are led by his word to eternal life, who are taught by the prophets, and who by the Spirit are illuminated, so that we, becoming wise through his grace, may observe the ancient things which were proclaimed, and in due time happened and will happen. Holding before our eyes the judgment of God, we guard ourselves from all evil, so that we may flee from the eternal fire and incessant punishment. For if even now these things do not come upon us, because the times are not yet fulfilled, it is still necessary to pray that we not be found in such times in which these things shall happen, lest one, having become weak from the great persecution which comes to the world, should fall from eternal life. For it is needful to observe what the prophet says, and I precisely sought concerning the fourth beast, because he was different than every other beast, and was exceedingly fearful. His iron teeth and his bronze claws were eating and grinding, and he tramples the remainder with his feet. And concerning his 10 horns which were on his head, and concerning the other, which arose and rooted out 3 former horns, the eyes and the mouth of whom were speaking great things, and his appearance was greater than the rest. I was watching, and that horn made war with the saints, and prevailed upon them, until the Ancient of Days came, and gave judgment to the saints of the Most High, and the season arrived, and the saints possessed the kingdom. And so we already arrived at this point, and said that it is clear that this is the fourth kingdom, from which no other greater kingdom or even such a kingdom like it has arisen on the earth, from which 10 horns are about to spring forth. For it will be divided into 10 kingdoms, and in them another small horn shall arise, which is that of the Antichrist, and he shall root out 3 who were before him. That is, he shall destroy the 3 kings of Egypt, and of the Libyans, and of the Ethiopians, wishing to possess for himself every kingdom. Who having mastered the remaining 7 horns, he rules the remainder, having in himself been endowed under an unnatural and evil spirit to rouse war against the saints and to persecute all of them everywhere, wishing to be glorified and to be worshipped as God by all. Just as also Ezekiel says concerning him, against whom your heart was lifted up, and you have said, I am God. And again, will you, while speaking to those whom are killing you, say, I am a God? You are a man and not God. And Isaiah says similarly, but you say in your mind, I will ascend to heaven, I will set my throne upon the clouds of heaven, I will encamp on the holy mountain, I will be like the Most High. And so if one wishes to meticulously discuss concerning him, these things are more clearly exhibited in another book, so that we may not be about to compose an account concerning him a second time. But now let us speak of what lies ahead concerning the beast which now is instituted. For Daniel speaks in this way, And the angel told me that the 4th beast shall be a 4th kingdom upon the earth, which prevails over all the kingdoms, and devours all the earth, and tramples it, and breaks it into pieces. And his 10 horns shall arise as 10 kings, and after them another shall arise, who shall surpass all others who were before in wickedness, and shall speak words against the Most High, and shall deceive the saints of the Most High, and shall suppose to change times and law, and it shall be given in his hand for a time and times and half a time. And judgment sat, and they shall remove the dominion to abolish it and to destroy completely, and the kingdom and the authority and the greatness of the kings, which are under all of heaven, was given to the saints of the Most High. And his kingdom is an eternal kingdom, and all chiefs shall slave to him and obey him. This is the end of the account. And so when the prophet, wishing to persuade us according to all things, and to examine the truth of what was seen by him, he inquired from one of the angels who stood near, that he himself also may be more precisely taught concerning the 4th beast. For he says, I sought more precisely concerning it, because he was fearful and terrible. And so the angel teaching him, but rather persuading us also through him to believe in what was rightly seen by him, he described to him all which was about to happen in the end, both the division of the 4th beast into the 10 horns which arose from it, and the manifestation of the Antichrist in them, and his war against the saints and his time, which is about to commence. For he says, it was given into his hand for time and times and half a time, which signals 3.5 years. And after these things the coming judgment, for he says, thrones were set, and the judgment sat, and the kingdom was given to the saints of the Most High, but the body of the beast was given to the burning of fire. For the time approached, that is, all at once the time was fulfilled, and the saints possessed the kingdom, when the Judge of judges and the King of kings in the future comes from heaven, who shall remove every chief and power which opposes him, and shall consume all in an eternal fire, punishing the unrighteous. But he shall give to his slaves both prophets and martyrs, and to all who fear him the eternal kingdom. As the prophet says, this is the end of the account. I, Daniel, my thoughts greatly troubling me, and my form was changed, and I kept the matter in my heart. And so it is necessary for every man who reads the godly writings to imitate the prophet Daniel, and not to be rash and heedless, seeking a time before the due time, and desiring to see the fruit of the fig, but to hold with fear the mystery of God in his heart, so that he himself may not, having ensnared himself with his own lips, his own soul become liable. For the time shall come when the almond shall blossom, and the caperberry shall grow rough, and the grasshopper shall multiply, the fig shall sprout, and the fruit of apostasy shall prosper. Then the door of life shall be shut, and the water pots from the spring shall be shattered, and the wheel shall run afoul in the pit, and the crowd shall be idle because they mourn, and all shall arise at the sound of a sparrow. And all the daughters of song shall be troubled, and the mourners shall be gathered in the market, and man shall depart to his eternal home.